Imagine this for a moment. The king of today's jungle, a powerful adult male lion, suddenly finds himself transported millions of years back in time, into the age of dinosaurs. At first, the lion doesn't understand what has happened. He stands in a dense, unfamiliar forest. The air smells different, thicker, almost ancient. Strange sounds echo in the distance, and the ground beneath his paws feels softer and warmer than the savannas he is used to. Confused but proud, the lion raises his head and releases a deep, thunderous roar. In his world, that roar is a warning, a declaration of power. It tells every animal within kilometers that the king is here. For a few seconds, the jungle falls silent. The lion feels in control. This is just another territory to conquer, or so he believes. He begins walking forward, muscles relaxed but alert, scanning his surroundings. Exotic insects buzz around him, and enormous ferns brush against his body as he moves. Everything here is bigger, older, and more alien than anything he has ever seen. Suddenly, he freezes. Ahead of him stands a creature so massive that it almost looks like a moving mountain. A gigantic, herbivorous dinosaur slowly pulls leaves from the tops of towering trees. Its neck stretches high into the sky, and each step it takes makes the ground tremble. The lion has hunted buffalo, zebras, even young elephants. But he has never seen anything like this. His instincts tell him that this creature is prey. It is slow, unaware, and completely defenseless. Or at least that is what his hunter's brain assumes. Lowering his body, the lion begins to stalk through the tall, prehistoric grass. Every step is silent, calculated. The same deadly technique that has made him king in his own era. But as he gets closer, the dinosaur shifts its weight and takes a single heavy step. The ground shakes violently. Dust rises into the air. The lion pauses, surprised. This is not the reaction of normal prey. This creature is simply too large. One accidental step could crush him instantly. For the first time since arriving in this strange world, the lion hesitates. Before he can decide what to do next, the jungle changes again. Birds, or something similar to birds, burst into the sky in panic. The air fills with a deep, terrifying roar that echoes through the forest like thunder. The lion turns his head toward the sound, and what he sees makes his entire body go rigid. Emerging from between the trees is one of the most feared predators to ever exist. A Tyrannosaurus rex. It is taller than any animal the lion has ever encountered, its massive head swaying with each step. Its jaws are lined with teeth longer than the lion's claws. Every movement radiates raw, unstoppable power. The lion's heart begins to race. In his world, he is the top predator. Nothing hunts him. Nothing challenges him directly. But now, standing in front of this gigantic carnivore, he feels something he has rarely felt before: fear. Still, instinct forces him to act brave. He arches his back, bares his teeth, and roars as loudly as he can, trying to intimidate the giant predator. In the African savanna, that roar would send hyenas and leopards running. It would echo across the plains as a warning that the king is not to be challenged. But the Tyrannosaurus rex does not run. Instead, it tilts its massive head slightly, almost as if it is curious. To the dinosaur, this small golden creature is not a rival. It is just another animal. The lion makes a bluff charge, sprinting forward a few steps in a classic intimidation display. But the T-Rex responds instantly. With just one enormous stride, it closes the distance far faster than the lion expected. At that moment, the lion understands a brutal truth. This is not a fight he can win, not even close. He spins around and runs at full speed, his powerful legs pushing him through the thick vegetation as he desperately tries to escape. Behind him, the T-Rex lets out another deafening roar, the sound vibrating through the lion's entire body. The king of the savannah is now running for his life. From that moment on, Everything changes. The lion no longer walks proudly through the jungle. He moves carefully, quietly, avoiding open areas and listening constantly for heavy footsteps. His behavior shifts from ruler to survivor. Hunting also becomes more difficult. Most of the animals around him are either far too large to attack or completely unfamiliar. Strange reptiles scurry through the undergrowth, and the air is filled with creatures he does not understand. He begins targeting only the smallest animals he can find, conserving energy and avoiding unnecessary risks. Days pass, and the lion becomes thinner, more cautious. He stops roaring altogether. In his own time, his roar was a symbol of dominance. Here, it would only attract monsters. One evening, thirsty and exhausted, the lion approaches a wide prehistoric river. The surface of the water is calm, reflecting the orange glow of the setting sun. He scans the area carefully before lowering his head to drink. For a moment, everything seems peaceful. Then the water explodes. A massive shape bursts from beneath the surface, jaws snapping shut just inches from the lion's face. It is a gigantic prehistoric predator, something between a crocodile and a dinosaur, perfectly adapted to ambush anything that comes too close to the water's edge. The lion leaps backward in pure instinct, barely avoiding being dragged into the river. His heart pounds violently as he stumbles away, realizing that even the water is not safe in this ancient world. By now, the truth is clear. In the modern world, the lion is an apex predator, sitting at the top of the food chain. But in the age of dinosaurs, he is just another medium-sized carnivore surrounded by giants, creatures bigger, stronger, and more dangerous than anything evolution has produced in his time. He may survive for a few days, maybe even a few weeks if he is extremely careful. But he will never become the king of this world. There are simply too many predators, too many dangers, and too many animals that see him not as a ruler, but as food. This story shows something fascinating about nature. Being the king of one era does not guarantee dominance in another. Every animal is perfectly adapted to its own time, its own environment, and its own enemies. The lion is a masterpiece of evolution for the African savanna, but in the prehistoric world of dinosaurs, he is completely outmatched. And it makes you wonder, if a creature as powerful and confident as a lion can become helpless in a different era, what would happen if one of those ancient monsters suddenly appeared in our modern world today? Would humans still be at the top of the food chain, or would we become the ones running for our lives? Imagine a modern-day elephant suddenly transported millions of years back into the age of dinosaurs. At first glance, the elephant might seem like a powerful and dominant animal. It is massive, intelligent, and equipped with strong tusks and thick skin. In today's world, very few animals can challenge a full-grown elephant. But the dinosaur era was a completely different and far more dangerous environment. The moment the elephant arrives, it would find itself in an unfamiliar world. The climate would feel different, warmer, more humid, and filled with strange vegetation. The air itself had slightly different oxygen levels, and the ecosystem was dominated by creatures the elephant has never encountered before. Even the sounds of the jungle would be overwhelming, with distant roars and unfamiliar calls echoing around it. At first, the elephant might survive by relying on its natural instincts. It would search for water, plants, and safe pathways, just like it does in its own time. Herbivorous dinosaurs would not immediately attack it, and some of them might even ignore it completely, as they are focused on feeding. However, the elephant would be at a disadvantage because it has no evolutionary experience with these ancient creatures. The real danger begins when predators enter the scene. Large carnivorous dinosaurs such as Tyrannosaurus rex or Allosaurus were apex predators of their time. Compared to them, even a large elephant might not be as intimidating. A Tyrannosaurus rex, for example, had an incredibly powerful bite force, far greater than any land predator alive today. If such a predator targeted the elephant, it would likely see it as prey rather than a threat. The elephant does have some advantages. Its size could deter smaller predators, and its intelligence might help it avoid danger. It could use its trunk to sense vibrations and detect movement, and its tusks could be used for defense. In a one-on-one encounter with a medium-sized predator, the elephant might even stand a chance. But against the largest dinosaurs, its chances would be very low. Another major challenge would be the environment itself. The types of plants in the dinosaur era were different, and not all of them would be suitable for the elephant's diet. Finding enough food could become a serious problem. Water sources might also be contested by large dinosaurs, making survival even harder. Over time, the stress of constant threats, lack of familiar food, and an unfamiliar ecosystem would weaken the elephant. Unlike dinosaurs that evolved specifically for that environment, the elephant would always be at a disadvantage. It would need to stay constantly alert, avoid predators, and adapt quickly to survive. In conclusion, while a modern elephant is a powerful and intelligent animal, surviving in the dinosaur era would be extremely difficult. It might survive for a short period by using its strength and instincts, but in the long run, the odds would be against it. The combination of powerful predators, unfamiliar environment, and lack of adaptation would make long-term survival nearly impossible. What if a modern anaconda entered the dinosaur era? Imagine a massive modern-day anaconda suddenly transported millions of years back into the age of dinosaurs. A world far more dangerous, unpredictable, and brutal than anything it has ever known. At first glance, the anaconda might seem like a powerful predator. In today's world, it dominates rivers and swamps, crushing prey with immense strength and patience. But the dinosaur era was a completely different battlefield. The environment was harsher, oxygen levels varied, and temperatures in many regions were higher and more extreme. While the anaconda thrives in warm, slow-moving waters, the prehistoric world had creatures that were faster, stronger, and far more aggressive. In the water, the anaconda would have its best chance of survival. It could still use stealth, hiding beneath murky surfaces and ambushing smaller prehistoric animals that came to drink. However, even here, danger would be everywhere. Ancient crocodile-like reptiles and massive aquatic predators would compete for the same territory. Unlike today's ecosystems, where the anaconda sits near the top of the food chain, in the dinosaur era it would just be another hunter, and not the strongest one. On land, things would get even worse. The anaconda is not built for speed or endurance outside water. Large carnivorous dinosaurs could easily overpower it. Even smaller predatory dinosaurs hunting in groups might pose a serious threat. The snake's strategy of constriction requires time and control, something difficult to achieve when facing fast, aggressive, and unfamiliar prey. Another challenge would be adaptation. The anaconda's instincts are shaped by modern ecosystems. It would not recognize many of the creatures around it, some too large to attack, others too dangerous to approach. A single mistake in judgment could be fatal. However, survival is not impossible. If the anaconda managed to stay in dense, swampy regions, avoided large predators, and targeted smaller, manageable prey, it could survive for a limited time. Its camouflage, patience, and ambush skills would still give it an edge in certain situations. But long-term survival? That's unlikely. The dinosaur era was dominated by species evolved specifically for that environment over millions of years. A modern anaconda, despite its strength, would be an outsider in a world where even the strongest needed constant adaptation to survive. In the end, the anaconda might survive briefly in isolated conditions, but in a world ruled by dinosaurs, it would struggle to hold its ground for long. Imagine a powerful modern predator like the brown bear suddenly transported millions of years back into the age of dinosaurs. At first glance, you might think this massive, muscular animal could dominate, but the reality would be far more intense and dangerous. The brown bear would find itself in a completely unfamiliar world. The air composition during the time of dinosaurs was slightly different, with varying oxygen levels, and the climate in many regions was warmer and more humid than today. While bears are highly adaptable, this sudden environmental shift would immediately put stress on its body. As the bear begins to explore, it would encounter creatures far beyond anything it has ever faced. Imagine crossing paths with a Tyrannosaurus rex, a predator several times larger, faster in short bursts, and equipped with bone-crushing jaws. The bear's strength and claws, which make it dominant in today's ecosystems, would suddenly feel insignificant. Even herbivorous dinosaurs could be deadly. A peaceful-looking giant like Triceratops could easily defend itself with massive horns and sheer size. One wrong move, and the bear could be fatally injured. Food would also be a major challenge. Brown bears are omnivores, relying on fish, berries, and smaller animals. In the dinosaur era, familiar food sources like salmon rivers or modern plants wouldn't exist in the same way. The bear would struggle to find safe and consistent nutrition, forcing it to scavenge or risk hunting unknown prey. On top of that, the competition would be brutal. Smaller but fast and intelligent predators, like packs of Velociraptor, could outmaneuver the bear. Unlike modern predators, many dinosaurs evolved specifically for survival in this harsh ecosystem. Over time, the brown bear would likely become more cautious, avoiding open areas and staying hidden in dense vegetation. But survival would remain extremely difficult. Without evolutionary adaptations suited for that era, the bear would always be at a disadvantage. In the end, while the brown bear is one of the strongest land predators of today, in the dinosaur era, it would not be a king. It would be a survivor, constantly at risk, struggling every day just to stay alive in a world ruled by giants. A sudden ripple disturbs the surface of a quiet river, and within seconds, a modern-day crocodile is pulled into a force it cannot understand. The water around it twists, the current grows violent, and then silence. When it opens its eyes again, the world has changed. The air feels heavier, hotter, filled with strange scents. The familiar riverbank is gone. Towering ferns, massive trees, and distant thunder-like roars replace everything it once knew. The crocodile remains still at first, relying on instinct. It sinks low into the muddy water, eyes just above the surface. Survival has always depended on patience. But something feels wrong. The vibrations in the ground are too strong, too frequent. Then it sees them. Giant creatures moving in the distance, creatures far larger than anything it has ever encountered. Among them, a terrifying predator emerges. Tyrannosaurus rex. Its footsteps shake the earth, its roar echoes across the land. The crocodile does not attack. It does not move. For the first time in its life, it understands fear as prey. Days pass, and hunger begins to grow. The crocodile attempts to hunt smaller animals near the water, but even here, danger lurks. The rivers are not empty. They belong to something else now. Suddenly, the water explodes with movement as a massive Spinosaurus emerges, its jaws snapping with terrifying force. The crocodile barely escapes, retreating with speed it has never used before. This is no longer its domain. Every moment becomes a test. It hides longer, moves less, adapts faster. It learns to avoid open land, to stay in shadows, to strike only when absolutely certain. The confidence of a top predator slowly fades, replaced by caution and instinctive fear. Yet deep inside, something refuses to give up. It has survived floods, droughts, and centuries of evolution. This is just another challenge. Just another world. One evening, as the sun sets behind prehistoric giants, the crocodile waits silently near the edge of the water. A small, unaware creature comes too close, and in a flash, the crocodile strikes successfully. For a brief moment, it feels like itself again. Not a victim, but a survivor. The roars of dinosaurs still echo in the distance, and danger remains everywhere. But the crocodile has changed. It no longer tries to dominate this world. It endures it. And in a time ruled by giants, survival itself becomes the greatest victory. A modern rhinoceros suddenly finds itself in a world millions of years in the past, a time ruled by dinosaurs. At first, the rhino is confused. The air feels different, heavier with humidity and filled with unfamiliar scents. Strange plants tower above it, and the sounds are unlike anything it has ever heard. Deep roars, distant stomps, and eerie calls echo through the land. The rhino relies on its instincts. It begins grazing, searching for vegetation similar to what it eats in its own time. Luckily, some prehistoric plants are edible, so it manages to survive the first few days. However, the environment is far more dangerous. Unlike in the modern world where it has few predators, here it is surrounded by massive carnivorous dinosaurs. Soon, the rhino encounters its first real threat, a large predator. Though the rhino is powerful, with thick skin and a strong horn, it is not built to fight creatures much larger and faster than itself. It reacts defensively, charging with force. This might scare off smaller predators, but against giant hunters, it becomes a risky gamble. Over time, the rhino learns to stay alert at all times. It avoids open areas and sticks to dense vegetation where it can hide or escape quickly. Its strength and armor-like skin give it some advantage, but survival is a constant struggle. Water sources become dangerous hotspots as both herbivores and carnivores gather there. Another challenge is competition. The rhino must share food and space with massive herbivorous dinosaurs. These creatures are far bigger and can easily dominate feeding areas, forcing the rhino to move frequently in search of resources. As days pass, the rhino either adapts or perishes. If it survives long enough, it becomes a rare anomaly in this ancient world, a creature from the future holding its ground in a time where it doesn't belong. But realistically, the odds are against it. The combination of unfamiliar predators, intense competition, and a harsh environment makes long-term survival extremely difficult. In the end, the rhino's journey in the dinosaur era is a story of resilience, instinct, and survival against overwhelming odds. Imagine a massive modern-day hippopotamus suddenly transported millions of years back into the age of dinosaurs. At first, the hippo would rely on its natural instincts, staying close to water, since hippos spend most of their time submerged to keep their bodies cool and protected. Rivers and swamps existed in the dinosaur era, so finding water wouldn't be impossible. However, survival wouldn't be easy. Unlike today's environment, prehistoric ecosystems were filled with dangerous predators. Giant carnivorous dinosaurs would see the hippo as a potential meal. Even though a hippo is incredibly strong, aggressive, and has one of the most powerful bites in the animal kingdom, it would still face threats from predators much larger and more powerful than anything it has evolved to fight. On the other hand, the hippo's thick skin and territorial nature could help it defend itself, especially in water. It might manage to scare off smaller predators, or survive in isolated areas where large carnivores are less common. But adapting to unfamiliar plants, changing climate conditions, and new diseases would be another major challenge. In the long run, survival would depend on luck, location, and the absence of large predators. While the hippo might survive for a short time, the harsh and competitive environment of the dinosaur era would make long-term survival extremely difficult. Nature in that time was unforgiving, and even powerful animals like a hippo would struggle to stay alive. Imagine a modern giraffe suddenly transported millions of years back into the dinosaur era. At first, the giraffe would look completely out of place. Towering above many creatures with its long neck, it might seem like it has an advantage. But the prehistoric world was far more dangerous than anything alive today. The giraffe would enter a land filled with giant predators, massive insects, extreme weather, and plants very different from modern African trees. Its long neck could help it reach high vegetation, but many prehistoric plants may not even be safe for it to eat. Some plants from that era were toxic, tough, or lacked the nutrients giraffes need today. One of the giraffe's biggest problems would be predators. Dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus rex or packs of smaller carnivorous hunters would quickly notice such a strange animal. Unlike modern giraffes that only deal with lions or crocodiles, dinosaur predators were larger, faster, and far more powerful. The giraffe could try using its strong kicks for defense. Modern giraffes can seriously injure lions with a single kick, so smaller predators might avoid attacking it. But against giant dinosaurs, its defense may not be enough. Water would also be dangerous. Rivers and lakes during the dinosaur age could contain giant reptiles waiting to ambush prey. Even finding a safe place to sleep would become a daily struggle. However, the giraffe's height could give it one important advantage. It would spot danger from far away and escape earlier than many other animals. If it stayed in open areas and avoided dense prehistoric forests, it might survive longer than expected. Still, survival in the dinosaur era would be extremely difficult. The giraffe evolved for today's environment, not a brutal prehistoric ecosystem. Lack of familiar food, constant predators, diseases, and harsh climate conditions would slowly weaken it. In the end, the giraffe might survive for a short time through speed, height, and awareness, but lasting for years in the dinosaur world would be nearly impossible. The age of dinosaurs was simply too dangerous for a modern animal that evolved millions of years later. Imagine if a modern tiger suddenly appeared in the dinosaur era, millions of years in the past. At first, the tiger would be completely confused. The world would look nothing like today's forests. Giant volcanoes, massive insects, strange plants, and terrifying dinosaurs would surround it everywhere. The tiger is one of the most powerful predators on Earth today. It is fast, silent, intelligent, and extremely strong. In modern jungles, almost no animal dares to challenge a fully grown tiger. But in the dinosaur era, things would be very different. At the beginning, the tiger could probably hunt small prehistoric animals for food. Its sharp claws, powerful bite, and stealth would still make it dangerous. Small dinosaurs and tiny reptiles might become easy prey. The tiger would use the same hunting strategy it uses today, hiding in dense vegetation and attacking with surprise. But the biggest problem would be survival against giant predators. In the dinosaur era, massive carnivores like the T-Rex and other giant hunters ruled the land. Compared to them, the tiger would look tiny. Even though the tiger is fearless, it could never win in a direct fight against a giant dinosaur. One bite or one step from a huge predator could end its life instantly. The environment itself would also be dangerous. The temperature, air quality, and unfamiliar diseases could weaken the tiger over time. Finding safe shelter would become almost impossible because enormous creatures would dominate the ecosystem day and night. However, the tiger's intelligence could help it survive longer than many modern animals. Tigers are patient hunters and excellent at adapting. Instead of fighting giant dinosaurs, it would likely avoid them completely and stay hidden in thick forests or near water sources. The tiger might survive for some time by hunting small prey and avoiding danger, but surviving permanently in the dinosaur era would be extremely difficult. The prehistoric world was built for giant reptiles, not modern mammals. In the end, the tiger would remain a powerful predator. But in the age of dinosaurs, even the king of today's jungle would struggle to survive. Imagine a modern-day gorilla suddenly traveling millions of years back in time, landing in the age when dinosaurs ruled the earth. The first challenge it would face is the environment. The dinosaur era was much hotter and more humid than today, filled with dense jungles and unfamiliar ecosystems. A gorilla is naturally adapted to forest life, so at first it might try to adjust and find shelter among trees, using its climbing ability to stay safe. But the real struggle begins with food. Gorillas mainly eat fruits, leaves, and plants. In the prehistoric world, many plant species were completely different, and some could even be toxic. Finding safe and familiar food would be difficult, and without proper nutrition, survival becomes much harder. Then comes the biggest threat: predators. Massive carnivorous dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus rex, or smaller but fast hunters like Velociraptors, would pose a serious danger. A gorilla is strong and intelligent, but compared to the size, speed, and power of these creatures, it would be at a huge disadvantage. Direct confrontation would almost certainly end badly. Its best chance of survival would be to avoid attention. Staying high in trees, moving quietly, and hiding from danger would be key strategies. Fortunately, gorillas are highly intelligent. They can solve problems and use basic tools, which might help them find safer paths, locate food, or escape threats. However, intelligence alone wouldn't be enough. The unfamiliar ecosystem, constant presence of deadly predators, unknown diseases, and lack of suitable food sources would make long-term survival extremely unlikely. In the end, a gorilla might survive for a short period if it gets lucky and avoids danger. But surviving permanently in the dinosaur era would be almost impossible. So what do you think? Could a gorilla use its intelligence to outsmart dinosaurs, or would it eventually become just another prey?